Press start.
Hello and welcome into another video, and anyone who's actually watched anything that I've been doing recently might notice that I've been cutting the video game story time and talking points and all that. Again, been going through a whole, not so much transition, but figuring things out as I go. That's the whole point of a hobby and getting better in that. But it's now kind of put me in the position where I've actually got a lot of videos recorded where I do video game story time and talking points and that, and I think I'm gonna have to upload them, but I'm gonna have to stop actually putting that as the topic title and things, because honestly that's part of why I've noticed doing this. It becomes a pain in the arse when I'm trying to remember what does it officially class as, and it's more just me talking about a subject anyway, so fuck it. And today's episode is one that does have to come with a little bit of warning, because there's going to be some trauma dumping here, even though that's not really the whole point of the actual video, because the video title is the longest I've ever spent playing one game without sleeping, essentially. There's actually a couple of things I kind of want to cover in this, because I wanted to actually do a video about, I don't know what to call it, asynchronous co-op, I guess, is probably the closest to what it is, where basically you take turns, and I realised I've actually kind of got one story that encompasses everything that I want to actually say here. And basically, Christmas morning, don't know what year, honestly, years are a thing with me, due to a lot of trauma and a lot of things, years just meld together, and especially ever since 2020, years really do just meld together. But Christmas morning, I got Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped and Mortal Kombat Trilogy for the PlayStation 1, and I'd never ever heard of Crash Bandicoot before. I had a PlayStation for a long time, but as I've brought up in a lot of videos, I was basically in a city where there weren't a lot of gaming options, there weren't a lot of people who were really into games, a lot of people were into Nintendo more, and even then I didn't get a lot of great Nintendo options for the N64, and with the PlayStation it really was a case of just discovering things sometimes via people buying them for you, and I got Crash Bandicoot without knowing anything about it. So that was a weird Christmas morning of, I mean, this is a new game, cool, but I literally know nothing about this, and this is the third game, I've never even played the first two. So looked on the back of it, and I was like, okay, so it doesn't actually seem like I need to have played the first two to be able to enjoy this. And weirdly, when it comes to Crash, I adored the ever-living shit out of Crash Bandicoot 3. I put it on, played it obsessively. My best friend at the time came around, and basically the two of us stayed awake for almost 3 whole days, and it was a case of, we put it on, not knowing anything about it, and we played the first level, and it was like, okay, this feels like a pretty fun, decent platformer. And then we played the second level, third level, etc., and we started taking turns, and then suddenly you get like the purer level with riding on the tiger, and tigers have been one of my all-time favorite animals. So I was just like, oh my god, apologies, this is kind of like me pulling a player one here, and I don't like to do this. He actually knew this because we were both middle children, we'd both had player 2 syndrome, so it's like I'm pulling a player 1 syndrome here. I'm playing the tiger level first. And he's like, yep, that's fine. So I played the tiger level, absolutely loved it, played the first boss, and then we unlocked the first ability. Now, I realise I'm going through this story pretty fast and I haven't even got any gameplay footage. I'd kind of forgot that this game starts with a very unskippable long cutscene. But anyway, I am at least finally into being able to move around and play. And not that the gameplay footage is going to be any good or anything, but basically, after getting the first ability, this game suddenly went from, you know, this is a pretty decent platformer, but nothing too special, to, wait a minute, I'm getting abilities as if I'm playing a Metroidvania? What the fuck? This is very new, and I can now use these abilities in the levels, and I can't even remember everything you can get. I know you get like the ability to do a super smash down, I know you get the ability to get essentially a rocket launcher, but it was with Wumpa Fruit, and all of a sudden after that first boss we were just totally hooked. So it was a case of, right, we're having a sleepover. He very quickly had to clear it with his family, and we stayed awake all night playing the game, and we passed it off as pretending that we'd actually got some sleep, but we hadn't. And the second night, we actually got checked on because it turned into a 2-day sleepover, and the second night we actually got checked on and people were coming in, so we had to do the whole secret of hide the PlayStation, try to make sure that it wasn't making any noise. We actually spent about half an hour trying to figure out the quietest way to leave the PlayStation on while we were in the middle of a level, because certain games, the PlayStation Drive would always run and make a stupendous amount of noise, and other times it didn't. So it was like, okay, maybe it was a case of like, maybe if we're in the overworld, or maybe if we're just in the pause menu. So we were figuring that out, and the second day came and went. So at this point, we'd both been awake for over 48 hours, and all we'd been doing is playing this game back and forth, passing back and forth, getting all of the speedrun achievements and everything. Well, not so much achievements, this was obviously before achievements, but the speedrun medals, essentially. We just were absolutely hooked. Could not believe that we'd never heard of Crash Bandicoot before. It actually turned out to be one of those weird things where we ended up getting the first and the second one just to play through them, and I don't really like the first game that much. I don't think I've ever actually finished the first game, and I'm struggling to remember if I've ever finished the second game. It truly is just the third game for me with Crash Bandicoot. I've tried so many others. I've tried the fourth one and played a little bit of it, and I don't know what it is. It just is this one game. Now, I can still play the other ones, and I enjoy them enough, but the others are kind of just like basic, boring platformers, whereas Crash 3... the fact that you got so many unique different levels, like there's levels where you're riding on a motorcycle, there's levels where you're flying in an airplane, there's levels like this one right here, where you're underwater on a, like, I'm trying to remember if you... oh, it's just a scuba diving thing. Maybe the submarine thing is an actual power-up that you get in one of the levels, or maybe I'm mixing it up with a different game altogether. But yeah, it's just all of these different things. I was like, this is kind of like Donkey Kong Country mixed with a bunch of other genres, and yeah, we were just absolutely hooked on it. And as I say, this video is about the longest gaming session I've ever had, and he'd ever had as well at that point. And it spread into a third day, and by the third day, he was starting to look ill, and really ill, and looking off colour, and not being able to handle it. I was completely fine. And I know that might sound weird, and there might be people going, oh, this person's boasting about how long they can stay awake. Nope, this is where the trauma part of the video comes in. I got hit by a car as a kid. It destroyed me, like, in so many different ways. And one of those fun ways is PTSD is a bastard for trying to sleep. You get constant flashbacks of, like, horrific things happening, and that was just like the straw that broke the camel's back sort of situation. I'd been traumatized my entire life. I grew up in a not great house with not great people, and I've lived next to a drug den before, genuinely. There's a lot in my life that I've had issues with, and it meant that, yeah, I just didn't really sleep. So this was normal for me. 67 hours is where we basically hit, and once we'd hit the 67-hour mark, he was forced to go home because it was basically a case of someone said, listen, if you don't go home right now, I'm going to tell your mother you've not slept for 3 days. And he was like, yep, I need to go home. And at that point, I'd finally hit the point of, well, he was definitely helping me stay awake, and I don't actually want to go to sleep because I know fine well I'm going to have horrific nightmares. And this is when I used to do some of the most unhealthy options of staying awake, and basically anyone with PTSD will tell you this. Sometimes you just do have to stay awake to the point of you get so exhausted you can sleep through the severe nightmares. It truly is the only way to sleep at times like that. So I still really didn't want to go to bed, but I'd just essentially had the one lifeline of helping me stay awake stripped away from me. And I went upstairs and I thought, well, I can't play the game anymore because the whole point is we're playing through it together, we're doing everything, so we're doing this shared co-op, and I love being able to do shared co-op, I truly do. I think shared co-op is... and there's that little submarine thing. I love shared co-op and think it's a very underrated way of actually playing games, and it's something that I'm glad a lot of people do at least know of, because every now and then you'll get people on a podcast saying, oh yeah, I used to play this with my brother, I used to play this with my sister, and we take turns, and it's just like, it is something that is very unique to gaming and very cool, because you can't really share a book in that way, you can't just have one person read a chapter, or you can't really do a TV show that way, or a movie, but games, you can easily do, I'll take this level, you take that level, and then it can become a case of, well, I'm really, really good at the racing levels, and you're really, really good at the flying levels, so I'll take these, you take that, I'll take those levels, you take that, and it was just a nice way to play it, so I didn't actually want to continue playing the game without him. But unfortunately, that then meant that I couldn't really sit and play Mortal Kombat. As much as I loved Mortal Kombat and I'd wanted Mortal Kombat Trilogy for a while, I genuinely had got to the point of I was too tired to be able to play a very brutally difficult fighting game, and Trilogy really was. Mortal Kombat always has been, but Trilogy was especially hard. Motaro, holy fucking shit, fighting Motaro. So yeah, I didn't really want to do that, and it meant I ended up putting a Christmas movie on, and eventually my body decided, yeah, we are exhausted enough that we should sleep here, so we're just gonna, you know, pass out. And I think I genuinely slept about 12 hours at that point, as did he, funnily enough, because he actually messaged me the next day, like, oh yeah, I think I slept like 12 hours. It's like, yeah, funny, so did I. And then we went straight back into playing the game again, and we didn't do another 67 hours, but I think we did another 48 at that point. We basically built it up and played and played and played, and between the week of Christmas and New Year, we went through this entire game, and we got to, I think, about 102% before we finally, like, lost the drive to play it. We knew there was still a little bit more to do, and it always irks me that we never went back to doing 104%, but by the time we'd actually stopped playing the game and wanted to get back into it, we realised we'd kind of lost a lot of the sharpness that we needed. We'd like, our skills had rusted, and we just were like, no, we're just not going to finish it. And honestly, as I'm saying all of this, part of me sitting there thinking, maybe that was the problem with Crash Bandicoot 1 and 2, because he never actually played 1 and 2 with me. And maybe genuinely that is the problem, that it's actually that Crash Bandicoot to me is a take-turn co-op game essentially, instead of a solo game, and maybe that's what I actually needed to be able to sit and play through the other two games and enjoy them. Or 3 games now, I guess, because there is obviously a third one. Sorry, a fourth one, with Crash Bandicoot 4 from the Toys from Bob developer, I want to say. But either way, that's just one of those things that's just literally hit me and came to me right now. But yeah, Crash Bandicoot definitely was an obsession for me, though. The third one, Crash Bandicoot Warped, is easily one of my favourite original PlayStation games. I still actually think the original PlayStation versions kind of play better. The new versions definitely look better, but just playing this here, I'm realising, you know what, this actually feels weirdly better than the remakes did. Because when I actually started the remakes, I insisted on starting with the first one, because I was like, you know what, I'm finally going to try to get through it. And I'm also sitting here realising now, maybe I should just jump to the third one, because actually, as much as I know playing co-op was part of it, it is also the fact that the third one's just got so much variety to it, that I actually didn't get bored at any point. Because it was hard to get bored, because there's so much going on, from the different boss battles, to the different abilities, to the replayability as well, to going back and having to actually take those abilities into the levels to be able to do things like that, like, again, like a Metroidvania. Yeah, I'm genuinely sitting here thinking I might actually need to start Crash Bandicoot 3 again, because this truly was an obsession for a reason, and it's such a fun game. And at the moment, I'm currently in a PS1 nostalgia era. I definitely am. I've been struggling to play a bunch of new games recently. I'm still buying them, which I probably shouldn't be, but I'm struggling to actually play them. I'm struggling to get into them, and what I'm finding is I'm playing a lot more PS1 stuff, which has been difficult, because trying to find ways to actually play these games has been a nightmare. And now that I finally found a way, I'm noticing not everything is aged as well, and sometimes I literally can't get past a certain point of a game because the tech just seems to be messing up, but only on specific parts of the game, where it's like the game just randomly crashes. And I'm like 90% of the way through Silent Hill, and I'm very worried I may not be able to finish it, because it keeps getting to a certain point and it's crashing, and I don't know if it's like an issue with the file or whatever, or if it's like the device that I'm using, or like maybe I need to be able to play it on a CRT or something. I genuinely don't know. But either way, I've really been jonesing for PS1 stuff recently, and I think part of that, not to stretch this video out any longer, but I think part of that is the fact that I as much as I'm a Nintendo fan, I've always been a Sony fan as well. Microsoft's kind of always been the Xbox was just there. I enjoy enough games. I thought the 360 was amazing, but I don't have a lot of nostalgia for a bunch of franchises. Whereas with Nintendo, I'm always going to want to play the new Zelda. I'm always going to want to play the new Mario. But Sony, these days, they have nothing, because they just keep shutting everything down and cancelling everything. And the PS5 is genuinely one of the worst consoles I think I've ever had the misfortune of owning. Like, I just don't care about almost anything Sony puts out these days. I like the Insomniac Spider-Man games, and I'm interested in Wolverine, and I'm kind of interested in Saros, but I never even finished, I can't even remember the name of it now, Returnal. I never even finished Returnal because I got past the first world, and I was like, you know what, this is a nice enough roguelike, but I'm not invested enough to want to get so good that I can actually play through it all. I just found myself getting a little bored of it one world in, and I'm like, that's not a good sign. And Saros does look better, and it's got Rahul Kohli in it, whom I absolutely love. But now Sony are like, maybe we won't be putting stuff on the PC, so it's like, oh well, I guess I just won't play it. And I know that sounds weird, because I have a PlayStation 5, but I just don't like it. I don't like the interface, I don't like the controller, and again, there's almost nothing I want to play. They don't make anything anymore that I actually care about. They've cancelled every franchise I ever actually had a fucking ounce of nostalgia and love for, and I see it all the time, because it's true, unfortunately. Astrobot was not a celebration, it was a wake. It was, look at all these things that you don't get anymore, and with all of the studios that keep shutting down, we're never going to get them again, because Bluepoint felt like an avenue to finally at least remaster the old Infamous games, or the old Resistance games, or the old Killzone games, or bring the old Wipeout games back, or this, that, and the other. And no, instead it's just like, we'll shut Bluepoint down because why the hell not? It's maddening. But yeah, that was the video then. And this is why I was saying I knew I wanted to do a couple of topics, and I figured this one story would work for both of them, and I honestly feel it has done. But at the same time, I know that then this means this is a very elongated video that definitely then had some waffle on at the end. But either way, I've been Sky Fellowship. I truly do hope you have a great rest of your day, and while I do not recommend staying awake permanently, if you also have some pretty complex PTSD and have a lot of trauma and a lot of nights of staying awake so long that you get I think it's actually called exhaustion psychosis or something, because I've definitely been there. Like, people don't realize just how bad it gets when you get that sleep deprived. I used to be able to wave my own hand in front of myself, just literally put my hand and slowly move it, and I'd get an after image as if I had 9 hands. Shit gets trippy, it really does. So yeah, if you have been in that situation before though, what are the games that managed to keep you awake until you could finally get some fucking sleep? Right, until next time, I truly do hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye!